I have a thing that bugs people about me is when I have some sort of emotional thing with someone I care about, I'll write long letters. And sometimes people who have objected to these letters because they could be very blunt. And, often I have letters I haven't written or I've spent way too much writing letters to people. Uh, I would write the letter and print it if I had to, or with email now, you just email these things. And it's a funny thing. I can't entirely stop it. I've mitigated the way I do it, and I've tried to make it more fair and not just exhausting, because I have a long stamina for talking things over and to work them out. I mean, some of my tolerance for people online is because I'm long past. I don't feel an emotional attachment. Someone says, "You're totally an idiot." I mean, what I really care about is when I say, well, no, I'm not an idiot. Actually, what you're saying is sort of questionable for these reasons. You might not want to go, and I go into these arguments to see if they're accepting that. If they still try to work it out, frankly, I have a fault of way too much tolerance for what I consider superficial abuse. I've learned that superficial abuse shouldn't be tolerated as much, but I also, in terms of like online, well, it's sticks and stones. It's just words. So online, it works great. But in real life, you can't stay in abusive relationships and things like this. So sometimes even online, I'll do this if somebody affects my feelings. Like sometimes a troll might actually, get my goat a little bit. That's very rare now, but it used to happen a lot more. And even though I know I don't want to feed the troll, and there's a point at which I can only be giving them extra information and stuff, I try to do it in a controlled enough way that I can do it because I need it. If I have unresolved feelings I'm trying to figure out, um, it's a lot easier to find out what those are if I have access to talking to the other person. If they're stone cold wall or whatever they are, just if they refuse, that all of that is reaction. A bland reaction. You can see, well, that's how they're acting. These things, while you're thinking about it, you can get information. Sometimes you can go like, oh, it was a misunderstanding, and that's great. But if not, even when you know it's not going to go that way, I'm really inspecting my own feelings by bouncing it off something that's affected. Now, if I don't have that access, then yeah, I write letters and stuff for myself to read and just over my ideas so I can read it and go, oh, what did I mean by that? Or why did I say that if I didn't feel that? And I find out how I feel, and my feelings are always a much more graceful arc after I do this than they are when I just begin in the middle of some emotional thing that's got me all angry. So, when Cashify or someone asks me, oh, well, how do you get a calm heart? Well, that's one way I get a calm heart, is I am not afraid of uncalm waters, because you have to go in there and calm them down or something. I don't know what the right metaphor is, but um, I sort of like I have this thing. People say, "Oh, you're smart," to me when I was a kid and when I was an adult and still, and I don't feel um, super smart. I know a lot. I've known a lot of really smart people. I do feel kind of where my arrogance would come is I do feel kind of in the future. I sort of have what I think would be a common person's understanding of things sometime in the future, at least among a wider group than now. And that's not me personally, that's something I came up with after I realized that I was not the originator of a lot of these ideas. I believe that they've been out there, they have traditions. And that tradition is growing, I think. But but it's hard to say about that. But yeah, it's just kind of like I think in the future it would be nice if people realize that I have a hurt feeling because there's so many people going around with hurt feelings from their childhood. That's what got me thinking about this. And some guys like it'll be something that's minor to anybody else. Like Dad never liked my drawings. He always liked Bobby's drawings. And it's minor, so you never bring it up, and yet you still think it still hurts to think about. And it's not really that it's minor. It must be that it's serious, but you think officially it's minor. You need to use your forebrain. See, hey, it really is going to be minor. Bring that up and get over it. And you can do that by yourself in therapy or with a piece of paper. But this is really, really weak compared to if you can go to the person. You know, you might find out, no, he liked your pictures better and he was just overcompensating. But you have to look intellectually. Was there really a material thing? And if it's just the feeling, then no. But maybe that's why you decided not to go to art school, and Bobby went to art school and OD'd. But so maybe there is a material thing, and all the more reason you're going to have to go and talk to him about it. And after you do that, you might see that, well, but for the grace of God, maybe you were going to OD, maybe you were both going to go to art school and OD, or maybe you have to feel guilty that Bobby didn't even really want to go. It was sort of you always telling him he was a better artist because you thought your dad thought that is why he went, and it wasn't the place, and nobody would have OD'd if they just would have gone to the right vocation. So those are all hypothetical, but the point is that to work things out, the best way is to be able to talk with other people. And we all have this clam up and don't write me a long letter, don't tell me how you feel. I mean, granted, sometimes I've been blunt and I'm really mad at someone and I don't even care if I ever talk to them again or whatever. And so it's like, well, that's never quite literally true, but. And so I go overboard. But I mean, plenty of them I've just very calmly said, well, here's the problem I have with that. And, sometimes I've just been totally calm. Probably because I didn't send the first letter and I've decided to write it a few more times because I want to be calm. And I write that letter, and even then they're like, this is a bit, why you write me? I shouldn't have to read 5 letters. It's like, I'll argue with you for 4 hours or for 20 minutes every week for years, but I don't want to have to read. I think people might get over that, and whether it's reading or video or whatever, talking face to face, working through these things and just learn how to step back. You're feeling all emotional. There are ways to feel detached and see it all as a story, and then get all the facts, and then go back into the zoomed in view and feel how they all make you feel. There's ways to address this, and I don't feel it's very special of me to know these ways. And that's why I say they're in the future, not because, oh, I'm smart, but because they're already out there now, and I've found them. I just think more people are going to find them. I would have loved to invent them, but it's really fairly, the things I've actually invented in my philosophy, as opposed to just collect and maybe hopefully understand, um, are some neat things, but they're just kind of fun things, like the name relativistic skepticism for it, and spectral ideography, and I don't know, even things that are so important like spatial metaphors for mind. I didn't invent that. Even philosophy didn't invent that. That's ancient, it turns out. So, um, it's not so much. It's not so much about novelty. But anyway, I was talking about the situation of hurt feelings and just how we really need to process these feelings from our childhood. We should try to do it with people when they're alive. And yeah, it might be that. And the thing is, it's not like, what are you doing that for? You'll never like them again. It's not because of that. This works with someone that you don't like, that you both mutually have issues. So you meet, and there's ways to both solve your issues a little, and you still leave disagreeing, right? You don't see eye to eye in that sense. There are ways, there are protocols of diplomacy where you can tell somebody that you think they're basically a really rude person that's more or less unredeemable, and without going fuck hard and getting this close to hitting each other. And when we get there to that level of nonviolence, we'll find there's benefits of working these things through, not getting to an agreement, but just getting a clarity and getting the energy from that conversation feeding you, not trying to force them, but just feeding you, trying to get even in your head so you can handle the fact this person's always going to be an asshole. Stop trying to make them not an asshole, and that last bit of your conversation is for both of you to realize, I'm just going to have to deal with this the fact this guy's always an asshole. Well, there you go. So, anyway, that's what I was thinking.